Newcastle contact Crystal Palace over the signing of England centre-back Mark Gay. It is crunch time for Conor Gallagher. He's holding talks with Chelsea over his future, while Atletico Madrid give him an ultimatum. Hi there, welcome along to the Transfer Show. I'm joined by Darmasheth and Michael Bridge here in the studio. We will be live to the USA a bit later on to find out what is going on with Liverpool's transfer dealings too. Also on the way, following Lenny Yoro's injury, will Manchester United complete a swoop for two Bayern Munich defenders? There is a major deal completed in the Premier League as Emile Smith-Rowe moves to Fulham from Arsenal for an initial £27 million. And as Ange Postecoglou admits the club need to sign an attacker, we will discuss the potential options for Tottenham. Well, hi there. Welcome along once again to the Transfer Show. This man, one of the star performers for England at Euro 2024, no doubt about that. And it seems that he is of real interest to Newcastle United, the Crystal Palace centre-back, Mark Gay. I guess, Michael, we'll start off with you on this. It was inevitable that the bids would come in for Mark Gay, given the summer that he's had. Maybe we should have seen this one coming, that a club would be interested?
I think so, David. Look, Crystal Palace are very savvy. They've done excellent in the transfer window over the last few years. Michael Elise, Ebiezi, Mark Gay, good recruitment. And they know in time these players will end up probably moving on. You know, they were ambitious this summer as well. Oliver Glasner in charge, he's an ambitious head coach. We talk about he's had a good Euros. He's also had a very good season before that. The Euros probably heightens this and potentially might heighten it in terms of value. We've talked about Jared Branthwaite all summer and how much he's valued. Mark Gay is going to be, I think, around that bracket as well and might go up a little bit more, given, as we say, that form he had for England. He looked completely unfazed going up to international level. Now, Newcastle, we know now today that they are very interested. I don't think they'll be the only club interested, but Crystal Palace will be hard sellers, believe you me. So this is a really interesting one coming out today.
Domish, why in particular do Newcastle want this player?
Well, look at what he did. You mentioned it in Euro 2024 for England. Michael's alluded to it there. And in defence, they've had a few issues. They've had injury problems in defence. I think Sven Botman has got a long-term knee problem. He won't be back until the back end of the year. He's not going to be cheap, though. That's the thing. And that's what Newcastle United are going to have to weigh up. Is it going to mean Mark Gay comes into Newcastle and that would effectively be their spending for the rest of this summer's transfer window? But he's a quality player. He's going to be attracting interest from a number of clubs, not only Newcastle United. But it is a significant move, and it could be a significant move if Newcastle United can get it over the line. OK, we'll keep a very close eye on that one. From one England player to another one. And it feels like Conor Gallagher has been edging towards the Stamford Bridge exit for a couple of seasons now. This time, however, Darmish, it feels like it could be for real. How soon can we find out if he is going to depart Stamford Bridge? This is a really, really interesting scenario now we've got on our hands with regard to Conor Gallagher. And it seems his Chelsea future is now in serious doubt. Let's just tell you how we've got to this position. Atletico Madrid, we know, have been interested throughout this transfer window, but there's been a big gap in valuations between what Chelsea want and what Atletico Madrid are prepared to pay. Then, this week, this situation came to a head because Chelsea made a third offer of a new contract for Conor Gallagher. That offer was for 2 years plus the option of a further year. That, like the other two contract offers, were turned down by Conor Gallagher. Now, his current deal, as we know, is up next summer. He is into the final year of his contract. That means it is danger time if you're a club who has a player in that position and he's not going to sign a new contract. Now, the combination of him being in the final year, the combination of him turning down these contracts, Chelsea then lowered their demands to Atletico Madrid. And then they found an agreement with Atletico Madrid of around £34 million for the sale of Conor Gallagher. So, from that moment on, the onus became on Conor Gallagher. Sure. The decision was up to him. Does he want to go to Atletico Madrid or not? However, there's been another twist today because it's since emerged that under Enzo Maresca's new style of play at Chelsea, Conor Gallagher is expected just to be a squad player. Now, you've got to remember, this is a player who's come through the academy. Chelsea regard him as one of their own. He was captaining Chelsea on several occasions last season. And the fans, and a whole section of the fans, they want him to stay. They've got a banner with Conor Gallagher. You know, they want him to remain at Stamford Bridge. It's thought, though, that Chelsea also respect the fact that he's an England international, and because he's only going to be a squad player, he needs regular first-team football to be able to continue for England. So if you look at it on face value, Chelsea are helping out Conor Gallagher. They've lowered their demands for Atletico Madrid, allowing Conor Gallagher to move.
Yeah, the fees agreed, right?
There you go. Conor, away you go. Cynically, you can look at another way. And this is how cynics might view the Conor Gallagher situation. Chelsea are trying to force Conor Gallagher out of the football club because he won't sign a new contract, and they've effectively chosen his next club. That next club just happens to be a club that's outside the Premier League, that is not a direct rival for Chelsea. And Chelsea offering him a contract of 2 years plus a year's option in an era when Chelsea's contract offers are usually 7 years plus a year's option. So where we stand now, decision time is fast approaching for Conor Gallagher. Atletico Madrid, we think, want a decision by the end of the weekend whether he wants to join or not. Otherwise, they can move on to other targets. Chelsea are holding talks with Conor Gallagher over his future as we speak. They don't want any bad blood because they realise the fans love Conor Gallagher.
It's a strong relationship.
And they do not want that to be soured in any kind of way. But it feels like it is souring already. The best case scenario for Chelsea is that Conor Gallagher shakes hands, leaves on good terms and goes to Atletico Madrid. The worst case scenario for Chelsea, and Conor Gallagher would have every right to do this, is he sees out his contract and he goes for free next summer, or he signs a pre-contract agreement with a club outside England in January ahead of a summer move. And that is still one of the options, and it is still a live option.
Well, I mean, and then that's the loss of potentially £34 million of pure profit there would be, because he's an academy graduate. Michael, we mentioned there, Atletico Madrid, waiting. The fees agreed. They've set this deadline. But could there be a scenario where he stays in the Premier League?
Well, what's funny is Atletico Madrid can wait till January if this rumbles on. He can speak to non-Premier League clubs. So that's an interesting one there. But yes, David, there is interest from Premier League clubs. One, Aston Villa. One, Chelsea's biggest rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. Those two clubs do not do business. And the last transfer was Gus Poyet in 2002. I'll have to look at that if that's actually factually correct. But they don't really do business.
It just doesn't happen, though, does it?
There's tension at board level, but football's changed, boardrooms changed. However, they would not accept a £33 million bid from Tottenham Hotspur or Aston Villa. Of course, they're accepting less from Atletico Madrid. In an ideal world for Chelsea, they would like Conor Gallagher to move on to Atletico Madrid. The reason why I think it's unlikely as it stands with Spurs, for example, my understanding is they want to spend the bulk of their transfer money elsewhere, which I understand is a versatile forward.
OK. Yeah, we'll come back onto that, actually. But let's get to Manchester United. New signing Lenny Yoro is out for the foreseeable future. Dharmesh, what about their pursuit of not just Matthias de Ligt, but also Nusayr Mazraoui? How's that been affected? Has that moved on at all?
So the situation with regard to Manchester United is that they remain in talks and there's open dialogue with Bayern Munich over the signings of the right-back Nusayr Mazraoui and over the central defender Matthias de Ligt. We do know that a gap in valuation exists between what Manchester United want to pay for those two players and what Bayern Munich want for those two players. However, there's enough talking that's happened so far and enough of a bid, whatever that might have been from Manchester United, to suggest that negotiations can continue. It's something to work on. It's a good starting point, if you like, as far as Bayern Munich are concerned. As it stands, and in answer to your question, Manchester United's approach when it comes to bringing in a centre-back is not expected to be impacted by the injury suffered by Lenny Yoro. He's out for 3 months. They're looking at this more long-term, which is completely different to how they've approached transfer windows, you'd have to say, in the past. Squad space and budget is what's going to dictate whether United go back into the market for a centre-back or a right-back. Victor Lindelof could be key. We think that Manchester United would be prepared to listen to offers of Victor Lindelof because he's entered the final year of his contract. If they bring some money in for him, they'll also create squad space. Hence, there might be an avenue for someone like Matthias de Ligt to come in. Interestingly, Nusayr Mazraoui and Matthias de Ligt have the same representative. So it's not only the same club they're talking to, it's the same representative as well. The same approach can be applied to right back, because as much as Manchester United are in the market for a right back, namely Nusayr Mazraoui, they need to get Aaron Wan-Bissaka sold before they can bring Mazraoui in. And with that situation, you've got advanced talks happening between Manchester United and West Ham United over that sale. It just feels like, I've used this phrase before, it feels like it's a holding pattern just now. Once one person can move and that deal can get agreed, it will knock every other transfer on. Bayern Munich, some might say, are in a good position here because they can see Manchester United have got an injury problem with Lenny Yoro. They can see that they need to bring in a centre-back if Victor Lindelof goes. On the flip side, Manchester United will look at Bayern Munich and say, actually, we don't want to go as high as you want to go, but we know you might have to sell Matthijs de Ligt because you want to sign Jonathan Tah from Bayer Leverkusen. And while they're trying to do the deal for de Ligt, the deal for Leverkusen is having the same issue in that Bayern Munich's valuation of Jonathan Tah is a little bit lower than what Bayer Leverkusen want for Jonathan Tah.
And it's interesting trying to almost like unite the two deals as well. I wonder whether that might create a little bit more of, I suppose, a dialogue there and potentially reducing those gaps in valuation if you're going for two players rather than just the one. Potentially might be a bit of a factor. OK, so that's in terms of potential incomings. Michael, outgoings from Old Trafford, what's the situation?
This intrigues me, and it's Scott McTominay, who Fulham are interested in. Dialogue remains open with Manchester United. Fulham went back with an improved offer of around £20 million. That was rejected by Manchester United. Now, Fulham, we understand, will walk away if they can't reach an agreement. But I feel with Scott McTominay still has a lot left in the tank at Manchester United, and maybe his manager agrees too. Manchester United, have a listen to Erik ten Hag here on Scott McTominay.
I'm so pleased with the performance from Scott McTominay, and I'm so pleased to have him in my squad. From type of person, such a huge impact on the team, team performances, team spirit. And of course, now we play him more in his advanced position, what suits him obviously much better. He's so important, making goals for our team. And I'm very pleased to work with him and to have him in my squad.
So yes, I mean, Erik ten Hag appears to be a big fan of McTominay. Again, you can look at that many ways, can't you? Like, he's a value player, you want him to stay at the club, or is this a way of trying to get Fulham to up their bid once more? I wonder, Michael, how might that situation be affected by another one that's gone through today at Craven Cottage?
Possibly, David, but they have sold João Palhinha to Bayern Munich for big money. So Fulham do have some money to spend. But as we say, look, they'll walk away if they can't agree terms with Manchester United. But as you say, one deal has gone through today, and that is Emil Smith-Rowe from Arsenal. 27 million, could take up to £35 million with add-ons. Let's file this deal into suits all parties category, because I think he's, Arsenal fans wishing him well, Fulham fans excited. Smith-Rowe probably needs a new challenge. Exciting signing for Fulham.
Yeah, and decent business for Arsenal. And you can see how they are progressing in their transfer strategy and being very targeted and also able to let a player like Emil Smith-Rowe leave. So he's in at Craven Cottage. What other business could Marco Silva be doing then, Dharmesh?
Focus could be on centre-backs, and not just one but two potentially is what Fulham might be looking to do in the rest of this transfer window. Remember, Tosin left at the end of his contract, and there are doubts about Tim Ream as well. I'll come to Tim Ream in a moment, but the news that we've got today and the latest news about a potential arrival is the Villarreal central defender, Jorge Cuenca. Now, he's actually joined up with the Fulham pre-season training camp out in Portugal. In the past 24 hours, he's been having a medical, Spain under-21 international, and the Villarreal sporting director, Miguel Angel Tenna, effectively confirmed that this deal was going to happen. He was going to go to the Fulham camp, provided he completes and passes that medical. They're getting a good deal, I think, here, because they've got a player who's entered the final year of his contract at Villarreal. And as I mentioned, they're looking at another defender, and that's because Tim Ream is not with the Fulham squad out in Portugal, and that's amid big interest from the MLS club Charlotte FC. There are some reports suggesting that talks have already begun, but it is clear that Charlotte FC are interested in Tim Ream, and if he was to go, then maybe Fulham would again go back into the market. One of the players that's been mentioned to us is the Aston Villa central defender Diego Carlos, and We think initial talks and initial inquiries about the potential conditions of a deal have been made already by Fulham, and it's thought that the player himself would potentially be open to a move away from Villa Park. So plenty going on at Fulham. I think some of their fans were a little bit worried earlier on in this transfer window because not much was happening. I don't think they're going to be too worried at the moment.
And 28 days still to go. So Marco Silva trying to get the piece of the jigsaw puzzle in the right place. We're going to stay on defenders because next, could Joe Gomez be nearing the exit door at Anfield? We're going to be live to the USA to talk to our reporter Anton Tolui, who is with Arne Slot's squad, all about their transfer activity. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Right, let's get to Liverpool, who have admittedly been quiet in the transfer market this summer. They are yet to make a major signing, in fact, under their new boss, Arne Slot. They face Manchester United in the penultimate game of their pre-season tour of the USA on Sunday. Let's speak to Anton Tolui, who is out in South Carolina for us now. There he is. Anton, great to speak to you. So, no incomings yet. What about potential outgoings for Liverpool?
Yeah, there may well be some players leaving Liverpool between now and the end of the window. Let's start with Joe Gomez. We understand that Liverpool are open to offers for the England defender. Now, a little bit of context behind that headline, because that sounds quite stark, doesn't it? Liverpool will be very happy if they have somebody with the ability and the experience of Joe Gomez still in their squad at the end of the window, but he has slipped back in the pecking order at centre-back. He played 32 games, obviously, in the Premier League last season for Liverpool, but only 17 of those were starts, and the vast majority of those were filling in at right-back and at left-back, and Liverpool are happy with the options they've got in both of those positions as well. So Liverpool are being realistic with the player, who's obviously an international and was part of the squad that went to the Euros, and obviously, financially, they know that he's worth a certain value, and if a club comes in with a bid at that value, they will be willing to do business. One caveat here, though, is the fact that Joe Gomez still is on his holidays after the Euros. He hasn't actually had a chance to sit down and have a proper chat with new head coach Arne Slot. That'll happen next week when he comes back, and Liverpool are back from their pre-season tour. But yeah, it's an interesting one because Joe Gomez, as we understand, was offered to Newcastle when Liverpool went in for Anthony Gordon before the PSR deadline at the end of June. Now, I don't know where they're standing in terms of interest of Gordon going forward, but yeah, it does look like Liverpool are open to offers for Joe Gomez at a certain price if someone comes in for him, like I said, because he slipped down the pecking order. Another player who potentially could be leaving Liverpool if evaluation is met is Sepp van den Berg, the 22-year-old centre-back who spent the vast majority of his 7-year Liverpool career out on loan. Now, Liverpool will do business for a deal of around £20 million. They rejected an offer last week from PSV for around half that. However, Liverpool will be pretty happy if Sepp van den Berg, who has really impressed during pre-season games and pre-season friendlies, if he is Liverpool's fourth-choice centre-back going into the season if Gomez does leave. So they're really relaxed about the situation concerning him. And two left-backs potentially leaving Liverpool as well. Owen Beck, who was so impressive on loan at Dundee last season. Interest from Celtic and QPR about potentially him leaving on loan. And Luke Chambers is expected to rejoin Wigan on loan for the season when he gets back from the US tour.
Thank you for that update. Anton Tolui live in South Carolina. Get used to seeing this club crest and this man on the Transfer Show because we're going to see it a lot. It's a lot of activity around West Ham United. We discussed their interest in Aaron Wan-Bissaka a bit earlier on as well. Michael, there could be another deal about to be completed. So who is that?
Yeah, Crescencio Somerville close to joining West Ham. He has the second part of his medical this morning, finalising his move shortly from Leeds United. So I think I like the look of West Ham attacking-wise next season, David. I really do. Now, if all being well and this move gets completed, West Ham will then have a decision. Does he go to their tour of the United States, which is coming to a close, or just stay in the UK, stay in London? But it looks like a deal is close. And you only have to go on social media to see Leeds United fans speaking so highly of him, not just as a player and as a person. So it looks like West Ham are getting a good signing there.
OK. And obviously, you know, strengthening on the wings with a player like this. But Dharmesh, they'll need someone to finish those chances. And we understand they're in not just for one striker, but potentially two.
Yeah, you mentioned that we're going to see this man and this badge a lot during the transfer window. They're trying to do 4 deals at the moment. Michael mentioned Crescencio Somerville. We've already talked about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Nicholas Füllkrug is another one. West Ham United are working hard to finalise a deal with Borussia Dortmund for the German international striker. He is understood to be keen on that move, but there's still work to be done between the two clubs to get that one over the line. West Ham, we think, remain hopeful that they can conclude a deal for this player. They've got a long-standing interest in him as well. They tried to sign him last summer when he was at Werder Bremen. Tim Steiten knows all about him, but he chose then to go to Borussia Dortmund. He signed a 3-year contract. He's got 2 years left now. At 31 years of age, I just wonder in his mind, is he thinking this is potentially the last chance I might get to go to the Premier League? So that's all of the issues that he's probably weighing up. He's just hoping now that West Ham and Borussia Dortmund can conclude that deal. If they can't, West Ham United will walk away if the finances don't work, and they will think, right, we got other players we can look at. John Duran is one. They've got a long-standing interest in him. He seemed to be the primary target throughout this transfer window. And one other line to bring you, which has happened in the last hour or so, West Ham United in advanced talks to sign the Argentine midfielder Guido Rodriguez. He's a free agent after leaving Real Betis this summer. Rodriguez was part of the Argentina squad, believe it or not, at the World Cup 2022 and this year's Copa America.
Do you know what? We are going to just tease our audience with a bit of Ange Postecoglou, simply because, obviously, we've got another transfer show at 7 p.m. And one thing we do know about Tottenham is they've got a bit of a problem to solve in terms of that they're under their homegrown player quota.
What a picture.
And, yes, I've never seen a better man adjusting his tie.
There's your next James Bond right there.
Right, exactly. But yeah, sadly run out of time for this edition of the Transfer Show. But Spurs fans, do rejoin us at 7 when Darmish is going to be steering the good ship, the Transfer Show, and Michael Bridge and Mark McAdam will be joining him for a full hour of all the day's transfer activity. OK, next we are live to Paris on another golden day at the Olympics for Team GB. All the day's headlines from the French capital are on the way.